You're listening to Passing Time, a Detroit Lions podcast. We're one pride and all grit, with a passion for Detroit Lions football. Whether you're between meetings, between classes, sitting in traffic, or just relaxing at home, if you have time to pass, pass it with Passing Time. Detroit Lions Talk.
Welcome back. We are on the clock, and you're passing time with us. A Detroit Lions podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Brian.
We're gonna pour our hearts out tonight for you. We're gonna do a deep dive into what happened, and we are gonna flip the script a little bit and talk a little bit more about, if Brian's ready, emotionally, what happened last week.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to have to work through this together because I don't know if I'm ready, and I don't know if where I am right now moving forward, what I want from the Lions, what I need from the Lions. But let's do this together.
Whatever you heard from any of those other podcasts that put out there, they haven't had enough time to digest this, because this one took, we had to complete the process.
Yeah.
And we're still completing the process.
We're still there. Like it's 48 hours after the fact, and it's still a pain to know where we're at, the likelihood that we move on, and how we're gonna move forward. What are the steps we need to do, the deep dive that we need to look at, and all the question marks that we have now as Lions fans.
So we're going to do it differently. I want your feedback here. We are actually totally unscripted. We said we're going to just go raw emotion. The way we're going to lay it out is we're going to react to last week's game against the Steelers. Then we're going to get into next week's game. And then we're just going to talk about some of the other games that matter. And really, there's only one other game that matters times two. And then just get into like the couple what-if scenarios on the season. And we're going to pour our little hearts out to you tonight.
Yep. Yeah. Here we go. So I guess we got to start off with the Lions loss to the Steelers.
Yeah. So episode number 35, passing time. And it's been 35 episodes of having a lot of optimism.
Yeah. And a lot of fun. And this time of the year, we're at the end, and we'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks. But I still have optimism about this team. I truly believe that the window for the Detroit Lions is not closed. But what we do with it is going to make a lot of difference.
All right. So, Brian, the game.
Yeah.
Emotionally. Let's try to start towards the beginning of the game, because the Lions weren't perfect, but you were feeling pretty good heading into like 5 minutes left in the second quarter.
And we were battling. I didn't like where we were at. I didn't like what we were doing defensively. I didn't like, the flow offensively. I didn't like that we couldn't get the run game going. I didn't like not seeing Monty on the field. I didn't like Gibbs, getting tackled for losses more than he was getting tackled for gains. There's a lot I can say that I didn't like about the game, but we were still in the game.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, they're battling. You thought that, okay, the Lions' key to success in this game was just to take a team that's a cross-country cadence team and then sprint out there, and they couldn't keep up, right? And that was like going to be the key to getting in front of the Steelers and not letting them ever have a chance to catch you.
Yep, and we just didn't seem like we could do enough, right? You got them into a 3rd and long, and we gave up a 3rd and long. You got ourselves into manageable positions as an offense, and it doesn't seem like we could do enough in order to get 7 on the board. We could get maybe 3. All of the pieces just didn't fall in our favor, and that felt like, that was part of our season this year. It's like, the little pieces that may have gone right in the 2024 season weren't necessarily falling to our favor, and that we talk about like water finding its level. Right now it seemed like all the things that did go right last year weren't going right this year, and it kind of balanced things out. So
yeah. So the passing game was clicking in the first half
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, right? But much better than the running game. We unlocked our 5th string tight end because that was working and it was consistent. Converting on some second and longs, third and longs, moving the ball downfield, and really put ourselves in a really good position headed into Pittsburgh's last drive.
And then being able to give up a prayer that landed in the hands of their running back and scampered in for 7. I mean, the review after the review after the review, did he get touched, did he not get touched, and and just having that sigh going, yeah, that was a touchdown.
I mean, even before that, so the Lions, I know you were thinking this, is, are we going to use timeouts to get this ball back?
Yeah.
Right? And are we going to try to get another 3 before half and give ourselves a 10-point lead? And the Lions had an awkward timeout call. It was like a hesitant timeout call that probably cost them. One thing about this team is clock management has actually consistently been mediocre throughout the whole Dan Campbell tenure.
And you wonder if it's one of the things that we're going to dive into is ultimately, I don't think that, as much as I love Dan Campbell's play calling or his effectiveness as a explosive offense, the consistency is not there enough, and his ability to be a CEO of this team is he can't do both. He's capable of being a really good CEO, a good leader of men, but he can't be a good CEO and a good leader of men and a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a guy today about he started a restaurant. Like all guys, they want to start a restaurant. And he had a friend who was really good at construction, another friend that was really good at cooking, and he was really good at the books. And what he talked about is you go into this, and we have a book guy, we have a construction guy, we have a chef, and then they met a brewer. It was all the perfect circumstances. But the problem was it was great rehabbing the building, coming up with the menu. Then once the restaurant opened, they never got to do the job that they really said they were good at doing. They were training. They were covering shifts for people, doing different things. And it wasn't their labor of love anymore. And it didn't work out, Brian.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. So Dan Campbell is the leader of men. He's a guy that motivates coaches to lead others. He's the guy that stands at the top, that can take care of all the small details so the big details can get taken care of by the coaches. He's not the guy getting ingratiated with the details, because then you lose sight of some of the bigger problems.
And I feel like the details of what have kind of gone by the wayside as you look into this team. The small steps on the offensive line in order to make a 5-yard gain into a big hitter, or a no-yard gain into a 5-yard gain.
Yeah.
You look at the details that go into the passing game, and knowing that you're going to have the proper choice in this choice route, or we're going to check into a shot down the field versus a check down. All of those little details that come into place, so that the blocking schemes, the pass protection, the who's blitzing and who's not. I feel like we've just been a step behind, and I think that comes from the details.
Yeah. So offensively, didn't look super crisp. We're not running the ball, getting behind the sticks, getting off schedule quite a bit more often than we were last year. Defensively, it felt like anytime there was a 3rd and long, there was zero confidence we were going to stop them.
No, and it felt like if they needed 11, we're going to give them 12. If they needed 8, we're going to give them 9. And we're just off a step behind, outside of a pass breakup, just a step outside of the throwing zone, or we were off. We were just off a step or two all along through this game.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. There was some bad words said on a lot of third downs down here. Censored bad words, because I'm watching with a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. and a 2-month-old, and I don't want to teach Quinn bad words. So really, really tough to tie that game going into halftime. It took a lot of the air out of, and I think if that play doesn't happen, I think the Lions are going to win this game.
But it's funny because you hear Dan Campbell and his pressers throughout this year talking about 1 or 2 or 3 plays that we have to clean up. A few things that we just gotta make, take away, and those are the difference makers, right? 1, 2, 3 plays that you take those out of the scenario, and we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
So
let's get in the second half, because I think the second half obviously was the most talked about half, and again, not running the ball very well in the second half, and specifically just the third quarter. I mean, that was probably one of the tougher quarters of football all year long.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, 3 plays isn't good enough for you, Rob? I mean, let's 3 plays, was it -3 yards and a safety?
Yeah.
That was our third quarter.
It was tough. And giving up a lot of third and longs, dude. And what's going to happen to a defense? We talked about, obviously the Steelers ran the ball, and the Lions, one of their strengths has been stopping the run. But when your defense is out there for a whole quarter nonstop, you are not immune to long runs anymore.
And we gave them up, and the Steelers feasted. You look at our fits, whether it was the D-line getting manhandled, whether it was the linebackers finding the proper gap, whether it was the safeties coming down. And I think I texted this in our group. Our safety run fits were rough. We're missing Brian Branch so much right now, and that's just in the run game. And you look at the pass game, and we're missing Kirby so much right now. Being able to play sideline to sideline, it just we don't have the horses right now.
Yeah.
We don't. Like it's not an excuse. It just, there's a reason that these guys that are on the field right now are backups.
Yeah. The Lions have depth. They don't have depth to cover up multiple injuries by key positions. And that's part of a team that is very top heavy. A lot of big contracts go out, so there's got to be a lot of little contracts that supplement those big contracts. So bad third quarter. Get into the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, the Lions had a pretty good quarter.
Yeah, the Lions woke up, but you can't win a game in one quarter. And we tried. We definitely put up our best efforts, and the Steelers tried to give us, this game, missing a field goal. They had maybe not their best quarter, and playing their prevent defense all on the field, and we tried to take advantage of that. But multiple OPIs in the final seconds, and just questionable refereeing. I don't know. I mean, I can't blame it on them. We put ourselves in this spot. Yes, Amon-Ra's final play was an offensive pass interference. It's just one of those obscure calls that you look at like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that a game could end on an offensive pass interference. I didn't realize that. So,
and before that, Tesla's OPI, where he's getting pushed into the wide receiver, was rough.
Questionable. At best.
To decide games, like there's a little bit of like historical context here for like a referee swallowing a whistle to decide games. For 2 whistles to blow that are like in scenarios that the whistle could be swallowed, and in the middle of it, you have your tough catch artist go up for a tough catch, Isaac Tesla, a ball that he gets in his mitts and missed. I mean, a lot of things happen there in a very short period of time where your emotions were up and down and down.
And you can have your own opinions on Isaac Tesla, whether he is worth the draft picks that we gave up to get him. But that was the reason we brought him in. And rookie or not, he's got to make that play.
Yeah. And you can have your own opinions, like Brian said, but your opinions aren't final yet because we're talking about a rookie who started at Division III and wasn't fully featured when he played Division I. So this is a guy that you expect the learning curve to be pretty steep.
Yep, and we're hoping that he turns into the guy that can make that contested catch in the red zone, and he can be the artist that, whether it's a back shoulder or go up and get it. I hope he finds that camaraderie, that relationship with Jared Goff, and they are gonna be here to years to come with success. But it is to be seen. So
he's had a solid season. He's caught some touchdown passes. He's a 3rd round pick, right?
Sure, he's a 3rd round pick, but you've given up multiple 3rd rounds to get him.
All teams have passed on him until the 3rd round.
That's fine. But if all teams have passed on the 3rd round, we can dive deep into this hopefully in the offseason.
Yeah,
and we'll discuss whether or not he was worth what we've given him, and if he's going to be the contributor that we hope he is. Now, if you said, yeah, he's a decent season, I would question, he's below 20 receptions this year. He has a high percentage of those receptions as touchdowns, absolutely. But you look at his blocking, and he's been okay at times, and then subpar at other times. He's still a rookie, and he's inconsistent. So I'd love to have seen him flash and just be, break out. But I get he's a little bit behind when it comes to Amon-Ra and J-Mo, who is broke out this season.
Another 1,000-yard year.
Have another 1,000-yard year, and I think that those two guys, I just wish he would have been a bigger compliment, more of a Tim Patrick-like compliment to those guys.
Yeah, and that was our comparison for him, was a Tim Patrick. But, Tim Patrick rookie year is different than Tim Patrick a couple years later. So that's a work in progress. Obviously, a really, really tough game. The Lions could have won that. They put themselves in a really bad situation after that 3rd quarter. And that's been the problem with the team all year long.
Yep, the inconsistencies, the slow starts, the lack of production in the 3rd quarter, those the inconsistency in defense, those are all the pieces that don't make a great team, and this is kind of what we saw this year.
Yeah.
Do I think they still are a great team? I think they have pieces. I think that there's a lot of question marks going into a off season on what we need to do in order to fill gaps and get better. We have to get better. So,
anything else before we move on from last week?
Oh, with the Steelers game?
Yeah.
I gotta lay it to bed because it hurt, because the implications of that game. Right?
I can tell it hurt.
It hurt.
You're even talking through this. This is a little bit of a therapeutic session for you right now. Right? You're
it's
the
been
second stage of grief right now.
It is. It's a struggle. It's been early. It's still early too. I haven't moved on yet. It's one of those games that, because of the implications, earlier in the season we lose this game, and there's still more that we can do. And I may have felt okay or moved on a little bit quicker, but against Aaron Rodgers, against a mediocre, I'm gonna call the Steelers. I'm sorry for all you Steelers fans. I'm gonna call the Steelers a mediocre team.
As Steelers fans, we still want you to like, subscribe, and listen to the podcast.
But your record is who it says you are, and right now we are also a mediocre team.
Yeah.
So the better mediocre team won this game, and we did not have an opportunity, or we may not have an opportunity to catch fire, as I was hoping for the last how many weeks now have we wished that this team would figure it out, to catch fire, to bring it all together, do what Dan Campbell asked us to do, is play complementary football, let the defense play off the offense, continue to rule, and the special teams to give us good field position. And we just haven't been able to do it all together.
And they have the potential to do it,
Sure.
which is like the most frustrating part, is like they haven't put it together. And we're going to talk a little bit about schematics with coordinators and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe later in this pod or in the next pods. Obviously, a difficult pill to swallow. Moving on, Brian.
Yeah.
We got a Vikings game.
Still got a Vikings game.
We're recording this late Tuesday night. So we got a Vikings game and
On Christmas.
So
tomorrow, for all of you folks that are watching this, is Christmas Eve, and we hope that you're, surrounding yourselves with family and friends, and whether that's tomorrow or Thursday, that you're able to celebrate, enjoy yourselves in those things, and come Thursday, you do get to watch a Lions game.
Yeah. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays, happy time with your family, your friends, all your significant others. We appreciate you. It's a fun time of the year to be around loved ones for lots of different reasons. So it's better to be around your loved ones when your football team wins, Brian.
Yeah, I don't want to feel this way around my family. All right, yeah. I want to be excited. I want my boys to celebrate with me. We have this kind of tradition where a good play happens, I stand up, and all three of my boys tackle me. And it's hilarious. I go and fall on the couch, I cover myself and protect myself, and it's a lot of fun.
What part do you cover?
Right, the most important part. And it's a lot of fun. We get excited. The energy is high. And in those last seconds of the Steelers game, the energy was so high several different times, only to be crashing down several different times. Yeah. And so, we talked about this a little bit. Is this is life, right? This is not just sports. This is not just being a Lions fan. This is the ups and downs of life and having to deal with defeat and having to deal with failure and having to deal with being let down a little bit, but even still having to persevere.
Yeah. So, and our kids have really in their most common memory have only known a pretty successful Lions team,
which
right?
is crazy because you and I have pretty much only known a mediocre at best, if not subpar Lions team. So
and we're all still emotionally just waxed from it all.
Waxed.
All right, so we got the Vikings. The Vikings are going to be on their third, fourth string quarterback. It's a road game, obviously against a Vikings team that beat the Lions earlier in the year. But this is a game getting back on track. The Lions should win.
We should. I mean, the what the paper says should, what the stats say is we should, and the problem is we haven't beat them before, right? And so those are the big question marks right now. Is even though we should win this game, we should have beat the Steelers. We should have beat the Vikings the first time through.
Yeah.
We should have, would have, and could have beat several teams along the way, and the inconsistencies that we've seen as Lions fans this season have proven differently.
Yeah. So same line going into this game as the Steelers line is the -7.5. So the Vegas is saying Lions are on the road. They haven't been great on the road this year, and they're over a touchdown favorite against.
Yeah.
So this is a game, and it's not meaningless, okay? Because the Packers are reeling a little bit right now. They've got some injuries mounted up. They've had a heartbreaking loss. They're going to have to pick themselves off the mat. And so this game still means something.
So let me ask you, and we can dive into this Vikings game and go through it with you, what we should see from there, the check marks, and whether the Lions are going to be better statistically than the Vikings. I don't think we're going to do that this time around. But let me ask you, do you want the Lions to win this game, knowing that it might matter and it might not?
Unequivocally, yes. And it's not even, there's no second thought in my brain here. The Lions have a chance to make the playoffs, and whatever chance that is, you need to go after it.
Okay.
With everything you got. So
the chance that they have to make the playoffs is anywhere from 16% down to 7%, right? And that means that the Lions are going to, in order to make the playoffs, the Lions are going to need to beat both the Vikings and the Bears in their final two games, and the Packers are going to have to lose to the Ravens and I believe the Vikings in their final two games. Is that correct?
Yes.
So So, yes, we still have a chance. And yes, hope for the Lions fans is still alive, though the percentage of those chances are falling. But the question now lies beyond just what making the playoffs and not. Do you believe that this is the makeup of this team, the coaching staff, the players, and all the things that go into it? Is this team right now, as is, a Super Bowl contending team?
This team, if you get into the playoffs, has the ability to play with any team in the NFL. Also, we're talking about a really high ceiling and a really low floor team. Are they still not the number one offense in the NFL?
They're right there
right now.
I think they're 2 now.
Are they 2 now?
I think they're 2 now.
That you can get into a shootout with anybody and win.
That's true. That's true. But again, defensively, they're struggling, right? They're reeling a little bit. There's a lot of injuries that are impacting them greatly. The identity of this team is in question, I think, quite a bit. What we hang our hat on as Lions fans, this grit mentality is in question.
Yeah.
And, it comes down to a lot of like, what do we expect from this team? What's the standard for this team? And what do we think is now best for this team? And is making the playoffs the best thing for this team? And we all as fans want more football. We want more Lions football. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
a lot of buts. But tell me how you really feel.
Well, I'm going to get into some Bill's bullet points, and I'm going to do it right now in the cuff because I had a conversation with Bill a little bit today, and he talked about this ability to change and evolve and what it takes to change and evolve. If we were just okay and we made the playoffs and we maybe even won a playoff game, everybody would feel hunky-dory and things would be fine. When the reality is there's still problems, whether we make the playoffs or not, right? So if we sneak into we win our last 2 games and the Packers lose their last 2 games and we make the wild card and we lose that first thing, we're all feeling a little bit better about ourselves. But ultimately the problems are still there, right? And some of those problems are schematics, coaching. Some of those problems are personnel and injuries. Some of those problems are, the fact that we can't, stop somebody on 3rd down and we can't run the ball. Some of those problems are identity. And we were a team that really hung our hat on running the ball effectively and stopping the run. Mm-hmm. And what have we not done in the last several weeks?
There's a caveat here. We haven't run the ball very effectively, but they've been using the short passing game as a kind of a junction of their running game. But yeah, they haven't been running the ball very well. And they've been leaving their defense on the field. And
way too long.
And that's not fair to your defense. They gave up a couple bangers, right? A few bangers.
Okay. And I would say that, yes, we left our defense on the field way too long at times, partially in fault of the defense, right? You get an offense in 3rd and long, and you would hope to be able to stop them from gaining a first down. But we allowed first downs. When we had teams in 3rd and 8s, they got 9. When we had teams in 3rd and 12, they got 13.
There's no counterpunch here. I agree 1,000%.
Right.
It's killing the Lions.
And so is that a schematic and coaching issue? Is that a personnel issue? Where do we fall, as Lions fans and looking at this issue? Is it even higher? Is this a Brad Holmes issue? And I'm sure if you're watching this pod, you've watched 1,000 different other guys question the fact that Brad Holmes is a problem or is not a problem or, let him cook or, fire him. I'm not in the fire realm. I think Brad Holmes is one of the guys that got us here, but I also think that he needs to not be this guy, smartest guy in the room. And he's got to be able to, adjust and change the way that he's looking at the way he's building his team. This team right now is not the 2021 Lions any longer. We have some talent on this team. And we're not going to continue to get better by doing the same thing that we've done in 2021. You can't just draft a bunch of guys because they're almost guaranteed to be better than the guys that we already had in the roster. We already have really good guys in the roster, but we have to continue to grow and get better to compete with the Joneses, the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings.
The Joneses, the Bears. Jeez. That's just
doesn't
sound right. Brian, Brad Holmes is not the problem. If you think Brad Holmes is the problem, if you think that's we just aren't. We don't have common space for a debate here. Brad Holmes is not the problem. What year were you born, Brian?
1981.
1981. Okay, so let's just say that your parents are die-hard Lions fans, and they showed them the crystal ball from when Brian's born until 6 years ago. This is going to be the Lions, unless you name Brian Brad, and you can have Brad Holmes, who actually brings a whole new culture, and you're making playoffs. You're in the conversation. You're on top of power charts. Like, how quickly do we forget? This guy he's made bold moves in the draft. He's gotten guys, and we remember the bad ones. You're remembering some bad moves, and Lions are going to have bad picks. And you want to know what? If you want to analyze other drafts, we can analyze all sorts of bad picks.
And I'm sure we'll get into that in the offseason, and we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not gonna break down Brad Holmes yet. We're not going to question all of his moves yet. But the reality is right now is that we have to find what are some reasonings.
It's not Brad.
Okay.
It's not Dan. Okay.
Yeah. Fair.
It's not Brad. It's not Dan. Are there coordinators right now coordinating that potentially won't be back next year?
And that's a good question. You look at John Morton, and he was relieved of duties. Week 8?
Yeah. What's he been doing?
And now he's been advising, in that same role to Dan on the sidelines. And Dan has still had, again, we look at Dan's play calling and we question that here and there. But he still found some success. They score points. But we're not doing it in the same way that we as Lions fans, or even Dan, has really sold us.
Yeah.
And so Dan has sold us that we win this game in the trenches, but then you throw the ball 54 times and you rush for 15 yards. It's not a recipe for success. And I get that maybe he doesn't trust the O-line, or maybe he doesn't trust, the run game right now. And he's trying to find where he can have success. But right now, I don't see that as sustainable. We got to find some ways in order to adjust and be better, right?
I feel like we're calling plays with a very simple-minded mindset. We're living in the very moment we're calling the play. We're not necessarily living in the moment of what's the defense going through? How much time is on the clock to set up defensively? What can we set up for future quarters? What can we bait teams into thinking in our tendencies to set them up for future quarters? We are just living and dying by this exact play in this exact moment. And that's a product of a guy that is a rookie play caller and is also stretched thin on a lot of other decisions.
And I think that you said it correctly, and we're calling plays for the now.
Yeah. And
we're not setting up for the future. We're trying to establish a run game, not to set up anything in the future. Right? And we're throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, and if it sticks, we might forget about it pretty quick, So it's.
And how about some of these routes that are being run where the receivers they're not even into their developed part of their route where they can turn their head and look for a ball, and it's 4 or 5 seconds into this play with this offensive line that is below average. Maybe last year's offensive line, you get away with that. This year's offensive line, you need a couple more hot reads out there, because Goff is a statue back there. He's back there and he's looking at reads and he's looking at option A, option B, option C, and he's getting hit, he's getting pressured, he's getting balls batted down. It's just, and then we don't learn. we do it again.
Yep.
And it's just like, whoa. Like, you didn't learn that?
So we got to take a deep look. Like, again, we want to make the playoffs, but yet we're in a spot where, whether it's coordinators, whether it's coaching, whether it's personnel, whether it's scheme, whether it's identity, we do have to take a deep dive this offseason and really figure out who we are and what do we want to be. And if we want to be a run-first team who stops the run on defense, then we 100% need to look at coaching, we need to look at scheme, and we got to look at personnel.
Yeah. But you got to get to the dance, man. Like,
yeah, sure.
My senior year of high school, I wanted to go to prom with this girl. I won't name names. And she didn't want to go to prom with me. Okay. So I'd have a backup plan, Brian. So I asked a girl that would really want to go with me. But my whole goal was to go to this prom and this girl. But I was going to try to dance with the girl that, like, I really wanted to dance with. And actually, it worked out, Brian. I just had to get to the dance. Okay? And you don't know what's going to happen when you get to the dance. And you could be dancing real bad, or you could be dancing real good, Brian.
Can I ask a further question? Like a follow up here. Who'd you go home with?
I went home to my parents' house probably with my best buddies, and I was probably eating popcorn in bed by 10:45.
I think you're on the same trajectory as the Lions right now.
They're going to Cancun.
So that. You're right. You never know what might happen if you get to the dance, right? You never know who might get injured. You never know who might catch fire. But I'm just telling you what they've shown me so far. And the record, we know the record is who you say you are, right? And right now the Lions are mediocre.
Yeah. Lions aren't. They have potential to be great, but they keep playing down to their level consistently. And I think the coordinators have quite a bit to do with it. And have you gotten through all Bill's bullet points?
No.
I feel like you started here and we got away from it, because I think there was a couple more rays of optimism that maybe you were going to share, that even when you speak it out loud, it makes you feel a little better.
Sure. Well, I mean, you look at the positives, and Bill talks about the positives, and I need to talk to Bill further. I had a conversation with him, and it kind of got cut short with both of our lives going on right now, being close to Christmas and him being in Florida. But the reality is like there's positives behind a third place or even fourth place in the NFC, right? Next year we'll get an easier schedule. There's a positive with not making the playoffs. It's a higher draft pick. There's a positive that comes with having some struggles along the way. It's knowing that you need change. And that's a little bit of what I kind of started off talking about is if you're comfortable with where you are, you make the playoffs and things look great, then you get comfortable and you don't make the changes that might be hard. You just kind of like gloss them over and you think like, hey, we'll make some changes next time that you need it. But when you struggle, when adversity hits, there's a need for that change. You got to build fire. You got to be able to find ways to hunt. Be able to be better. And we're going back to like Chris Perfett and talking about the hunters that we are as humankind. And the Lions need to be able to make changes and evolve as they move forward. And that could come to fruition with a guy named Kelvin Shepherd.
Go on.
Okay. Kelvin, we talked briefly after the Washington Commanders game and thought that he might be the next head coach somewhere, right?
Yeah.
He had a good game. And we might now look back at that and go, the Commanders might not be that good, right? You look at their record right now, and we've talked about this. You are who your record says you are. They're not that good of a team. And if you go back now and say, hey, what has Kelvin Shepherd done since then is given up 400 plus yards a game and allowed a ton of points and third down percentage is through the roof. And ultimately, this is not a recipe for success. How are we able to then adjust and move forward? Is he in his rookie year as a D coordinator able to know what to do next and be out ahead of teams who are adjusting before he does?
Yeah.
And right now it looks like he's a step behind too. You look at guys on the defense who we're asking to make plays, and we're talking about how they're a step behind. They're not going to be able to make the play on 3rd and 8. They're allowing it to get to 9. And I think Kelvin Shepherd is another guy that's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Just a step behind. Do I think he can get there? Maybe. But then you ask yourselves where this team is currently. And we talked about the windows. Are we willing to allow a coordinator to find his way at the expense that it might mean that it might be another year before he finds his way?
It makes me think about parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have our different styles of parenting. And one thing that I've noticed, even growing up before I was a parent, is the kids that struggled with maybe being spoiled or not being disciplined were the kids that maybe sometimes their parents tried to be their friend.
That's not parenting.
It's not parenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you realize it breaks your heart sometimes to not be your friends with your kids, because like, man, you kids, like I love my guys and my lady now. She's not old enough to really parent, but like it sometimes breaks your heart to be the parent in the room, right? And I think Dan he's got that quality where
Mm-hmm.
he'll be your buddy, but like the buck stops there.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan analogy, I watched Sharon Moore be everybody's best friend. He's doing handshakes with the quarterback, touchdown celebration. He's got unique handshakes all over the board. And like there was undisciplined, not respectful football playing. And I think Kelvin, being so closely removed from being a player and then climbing the ranks so quickly, I think he just is struggling a little bit with like the transition to being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And not a friend, and maybe that's rubbing off in discipline, and it's going to be really hard with the same group of players to transition that overnight.
And I think you said it absolutely correctly. I'm an assistant principal at a middle school, and I deal with the kids a lot, and majority of my job is behaviors, and then reach out to parents. And the kids that have a hard time when it comes to discipline ultimately or oftentimes have a hard time when it comes to parents, right? There's not always a steady, consistent, support system there. And oftentimes you also see that friendship versus parenting, strategy. Yeah. And that ultimately doesn't work. You need consistency. Kids need consistency. They have to have somebody who's going to establish a line and hold that line. You can't continue to move that line because they're going to test. Kids will test that line. And guess what? These football players are going to test those lines the same way. And when you allow them to be a step lazy in a practice or undisciplined in a drill, that's going to then move over to a game. And I'm not saying Kelvin Shepherd is doing that, but I think you said it right. He's probably really trying hard to find this balance between player and coach and close to their age group, and that's going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have some trials and tribulations along the way. I'm not saying that Kelvin Shepherd at some point in his career is not going to be a very great defensive coordinator or even head coach someday. What I'm saying is right now he's not. And are the Lions willing to allow him to grow at the expense of possibly a window?
Let me jog this back a little bit, because one coach that's had a lot of success being a really good coach, being a good parent, is Mike Tomlin. But he let DK Metcalf, take a swipe at a fan. I don't know if it was called for or not. I mean, I don't think you ever take a swipe. It's called for. But it would have been a good parenting lesson to say, one, by the NFL, just be like, hey, we saw it. I know the officials didn't see it. We're intervening. That's a slippery slope. I know what you're going to say. But as a coach, where going into halftime or you're going into a timeout that's getting replayed, saying, you know what? You're not going to play anymore today.
And that wasn't. I feel like Mike Tomlin played the ignorance card in that. He's like, hey, if I didn't see it, if I don't know it's happening, I don't have to address it, and maybe I'll address it later.
Yeah. Where does that get you down the road? It starts chipping away at the armor a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that was, anyways, that's jogging my memory back. We didn't address that.
Yep.
That's not good on either way. And I don't know. The Lions fans said he was just saying his full name.
There's been a lot of videos out there as well. I didn't hear any derogatory, racial, anything like that. I did see a lot of posts about, looks like DK doesn't like his government given name a lot. I don't know if that's, I don't know. So I wasn't there. All I can say was what I saw on social media.
Yeah. So moving on. Is there, the Packers, do you want to talk briefly Packers next two games? The only hope for the Lions to make the playoffs? I know we're getting a little long in the tooth right now.
Yeah, this is a therapy session, and I don't know if it's working all that well, but I'm still processing through. To make it worth, or to get to the playoffs, it is going to require the Packers to lose both these next two games. You've seen injury after injury after injury along the Packers front. The Jordan Love went into concussion protocol.
He will not play this week,
and so he will not play this week. So you'll see Malik Willis.
Looked pretty solid.
Yeah, listen, man, that guy is starting to figure things out. He might be a career backup quarterback, or might through his work here as a Packer might find a payday. So
it could be Jacoby Brissett, like where he carves out a long career, gets some starts, gets some opportunities with teams, does well in a backup role.
Yeah.
But
But you look at all these teams just searching for that next guy. He might find his spot. So
yeah, good luck with that.
He's gonna go to Miami after Tua leaves. Yeah. So
Tua will be gone. That's
with a $55 million paycheck, just hanging out with him. So.
Yeah, and he should just go to Cancun,
and just live there
and hide out. So, Brian, you talked about percentages and what you've seen. So the Lions win out.
Yep.
And the Packers lose out. What are you giving your own Brian Michael percentage to? Are you giving us a ray of optimism here?
I'm trying to continue to live where I live. I'm a realistic with that size with the optimism, but my optimism with this team is low. I don't see this team based upon what they've shown me that they're going to make the playoffs. Do I think that they win this Vikings game? Yeah, I think that that's very much a possibility, and I believe that they can do that. I think they can correct the wrongs that they've had, in their previous showing with the Vikings, and they can come out successful there. But I don't believe that the Packers are going to lose their next two. And I think that last game with the Bears is going to be like, the Bears don't care about it. Or maybe they do because it's the Lions, and the Lions are going to give their all, but they just don't have enough. So
your percentage
is low.
Give me a number. Come on.
I'm going to go with...
Give me some context.
I'm going to go with, it might be above 7, but below 16. I'm going to go with 11.
Okay. All right. Let's end on a better note.
Okay. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Anything special planned in the Michael family household? I know that you know the timing of this podcast.
Yeah, it's this. Hopefully, this podcast comes out this evening. I will be tomorrow morning driving down to Pittsford, Michigan, in order to pick up.
Be careful here.
Ooh.
Be careful. Do your kids listen to the podcast?
They might.
Right
they
when
might.
it comes out.
They don't.
They don't. Okay. All right.
No. But so tomorrow evening, tomorrow afternoon, it's around 3:00. I should be home with a puppy.
The puppy. Yeah.
A puppy.
Yeah.
So kind of excited in the Michael household. The
surprise puppy, or your kids all know it's coming?
Kids have no idea. The wife has an idea, knows it's coming. Wife is not terribly excited about having a dog in the home, but there's like 1,000 check marks that we've now checked in order to make it to this far, and we will hopefully. The plan is it's a Christmas morning puppy, but we're probably more likely going to be a Christmas Eve puppy kind of deal. So we'll see what we get. Ideally, we video the unveiling and tears and excitement. And
can we put it on the pod?
Sure, I'll throw it on there.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Let's put it on the
we'll
pod.
put it on there. Let's see what happens. So,
and I'm excited because Brian's youngest is the same age as my oldest, and I'm just tired all the time. I got a 2-month-old, and I have 2 dogs. I got a 12-year-old dog and a 7-year-old dog. And I remember what it's like to have a puppy, and it's about the closest thing you can have to having a newborn. So, like, I'm just like, hey, man, like, misery loves company.
Yeah.
So, like, it's great getting a puppy, and there's a lot of cool things. Also, there's a lot of, like, letting them out at 3 a.m.
that's going to be a lot of fun.
And cleaning up some stuff around the house
Yep.
for a little bit.
Yep.
But, yeah.
I've had my puppies. We've had puppies before. I know what it is. I know what I'm getting into. I'm a dog guy, but I'm not necessarily now being removed from it for several years. Not terribly excited while still being excited for my kids, right? Yeah. So this is not a puppy for me. This is a puppy for my kids.
Yeah. You've had other dogs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, hey. What's up, Mac? I love you. He's a good pup. We'll get you Mac on the Mac story another day.
That's a story.
It's a story. But hey, Brian, when you are up letting your dog out at night, you can always pass time with us. We are a Detroit Lions podcast. And I'm Rob.
And I'm Brian.
And go Lions. Stay gritty. We'll see you next week.